Canto 22. Summary. Dante the poet opens with a lengthy remembrance of his time as a mounted soldier during the summer of 1289 in the Aretine region. He does so to make the contrast between noble military activities and the actions of the demons here in the fifth ditch, real bugles, for instance, versus the flatulence via the novel pipe at the end of the previous canto. As they continue to walk with the party of demons, the pilgrim focuses his attention on the boiling sinners who sometimes arch their backs out of the pitch hoping to find relief. This is a dangerous game, however, as the evil claws mercilessly skewer with their hooks those that are not quick enough and plunge them back into the pitch. They find one such sinner in the midst of being flayed, and Dante asks Virgil to find out who it is. Though he is unnamed in the text, this is Ciampolo, from Navarre, a small kingdom in southern France. He probably committed suicide as the illegitimate son of a scoundrel, but nonetheless is suffering here as a barrator for his activities in the king's court. Though the demons are eager to inflict pain, Curlybeard holds him apart, allowing Virgil to continue talking with him. We also hear of Brother Gomita and Lord Michael Zanche, both from Sardinia. Both of these men were deputies from the 13th century, and both were given to bribery. Having finished, the soul from Navarre plans a trick to escape the further torments of the evil claws, enticing them with the possibility of more souls to torment. As they move to their respective places, Ciampolo takes the opportunity to dive into the pitch, effectively escaping the demons, who are angry at being so deceived. This leads Bentwing and Treadfrost into a fight in the air above the place where Ciampolo disappeared, which ends with them falling into the pitch themselves. Curlybeard arranges a rescue party, and Virgil and Dante escape before they finish fishing them out. Canto 22. Barrators. I have before seen cavalry move camp, set formations, and make a show of force, sometimes retreating for their own safety. I have seen riders ride through your city, O Aretines. I have seen raiders raid, tournaments wound, and jousting run its course, sometimes with bugles, and sometimes with bells, with drums and with signals from a castle, both with our own things and with things foreign. Never truly at such a novel pipe did I see cavalry move, nor footmen nor ships to a signal from land or star. We were walking with the demon party, fierce company, but when with the saints in church or in the tavern with gluttons. I only paid attention to the pitch to see in that ditch all the goings-on and the people who were burning within. As the dolphins, when they make a signal to the sailors with that arch of their backs, so that they take measures to save their ship, so too, to soothe their pain, now and again the sinners were showing part of their back, and concealing it in less than a flash. And as frogs keep near the edge of the pond, with only a snout out of the water, such that their legs and body are concealed, likewise squatted sinners on either side. But when Curlybeard brought himself up close, like frogs they drew back beneath the boiling. I saw, and still my heart shudders from it, one linger so, as when one frog remains and another scampers, that scratching dog, who was the closest to him, got his hooks into the sinner's pitchy mane, and drew him up, seeming to me like an otter. I had already learned how all were named. Indeed, I noticed them when they were picked, and then how they called to one another. "Oh, Pink Noise, see that you dig your talons into his backside, so that you can flay him," the damned all shouted together. And I, "My master, if you are able, find out who that woeful wretch of a sinner is, clutched in the hands of his adversary." My leader drew himself alongside him, asking him whence he came, and he answered, "I was born in the kingdom of Navarre. My mother placed me in a lord's service, having begot me by a ruffian, a destroyer of himself and his things. I was then one of Theobald's household, a good king. There I took to barratry, for which I give an account in this heat." And Wild Pig, from the mouth of whom stuck out a tusk on each side, like those of a hog, made him feel how one tusk could rip apart. Between malicious cats had come the mouse. But Curlybeard wrapped him round with his arms and said, "Stay there, while I have him enforked." And turning his face to my master said, "Ask again, if more of him you desire to know, before another unmakes him." Thus my leader. Speak now, of the others who are guilty, are any that you know Italian under the pitch? And he said, I just now left one who was from near there. If only I were still covered with him, then I would not fear either nail or hook. And Honeysucker, "We have heard enough," he said, and with his hook caught up his arm such that, ripping, he cleaved a piece of flesh. Nasty Dragon, too, wished to grapple him below at the legs, at which their captain rapidly turned himself around, frowning. When the demons were somewhat pacified, my leader, without pause, asked of that soul who was still gaping at his injury, "Who did you say you reluctantly left when you came to the shore?" He responded, "The brother Gomita from Galura, a decanter of every kind of fraud, who had kept his lord's enemies in hand and treated them such that they all praised him. He took their coin and let them off the hook, or so he says, and in his other roles he was no small barrator, but a king. Lord Michael Zanke of Locoduro keeps company with him, and speaking of Sardinia, their tongues never felt weary. Oh me, see the other one that gnashes. I would say more, but I fear lest he is making himself ready to scratch my scurf." The Grand Provost turned to little Coltsfoot, whose eyes were wide open, ready to wound, and said, "Stand off to the side, wicked bird." "If you wish," the scared one began again, "to see or hear from Tuscans or Lombards, I will send them, but let the evil claws stand aside a little, so that the souls might not fear the demon's retribution. And I, sitting in the same place, will make 7 more to come out when I whistle, by being who I am, as we often do when one of us comes up out of the pitch." Nasty Bitch raised his muzzle at that quip, shaking his head, and said, "Listen to this knavery. He thinks to throw himself down." But having a great abundance of tricks, he answered, "I must be quite fraudulent to bring even more pain to my own kind." Bentwing could not keep himself back, but said against the others, "Lower yourself down. I will not come galloping behind you, but will beat my wings there above the pitch. We'll leave the ridge and make the shore a shield, and see if you are more worthy than us." Oh, you that read, you will hear a strange game. Each one turned their eyes to the other shore, he first who had been most adverse to this. The one from Navarre chose his moment well. He stood fixed on the ground, and in one flash leapt and freed himself from their proposal. At this each one grieved at his negligence, but he who was the cause of the flaw more. Therefore he flew over and cried, "Got you!" But it was worthless, for his wings could not move faster than the other's suspicion. He was down, and Bentwing, flying, puffed his chest. Not otherwise the duck dives suddenly when the falcon draws near, but then returns troubled and flouted to the sky above. Treadfrost, furious from the amusement, kept behind Bentwing, flying, filled with desire to have his fight should the sinner escape. And since the barrator had disappeared, he thus turned his talons on his partner and was scrapping with him above the trench. But the first was too much a full-grown hawk to really claw him well, and so both fell into the middle of the boiling swamp. The heat was suddenly an unscrapper, but there was no way to lift themselves up, they had so pasted their wings with the pitch. Groaning with the rest, Curlybeard made 4 of the fiends to fly to the other shore, each with their hooked spears, and very quickly, from here, there, they descended to their posts. They stretched out their grapple hooks toward the snared, who already were cooked within their shells. And we left them thus twisted together.